Next Tuesday, the House of Commons is going to vote on a new set of measures to restrict the spread of COVID. We've just been hearing from the Secretary of State. Are you going to support your government?
Well, I'm expecting 4 votes. I will vote against vaccine passports. I'll vote against extending a face mask mandate. I'll vote against mandatory vaccination as a condition of NHS employment. The 4th one is a slightly liberalising measure. I don't expect the House to divide. But yes, I will vote against. I think what we're doing now is creating a miserable dystopia into which we're going forward. And that's why today I'm announcing that I'll be relaunching Conservative Way Forward. We need to create a movement which actually says the Conservative Party needs to be what people traditionally have recognised as Conservative, that is in favour of freedom and personal responsibility. So I hope people will go to conservativewayforward.com and sign up as supporters, and they'll be the first to hear more.
Presumably you wouldn't be launching this if you didn't have some support. Do you have any idea how many members of Parliament will join you from the Conservative benches in voting against the government on Tuesday?
Well, The Spectator has run a list on this, and they've got 65 names on there. It's not absolutely clear to me that they'll all vote against. Some may abstain, but I know about half a dozen extra names. So it feels to me that it's going to be at least 60 people voting against. But of course, it's a foregone conclusion because our useless opposition in name only will continue to support the government, however authoritarian they are. But, really, this is a moment where every last one of us should, in good faith, start thinking about what it means to live with coronavirus like we live with flu, now that we're vaccinated, and what kind of society we want to live in the future. I want one which is free, which is prosperous, and which is joyful, in which young people can have a hope of a better future. And at the moment, we're not looking like we're going to deliver that. If we keep on panicking every time we get a variant, this disease will now be with us forever. There will be new variants. The vaccine continues to give a high degree of protection against serious illness and death. And I'm afraid we just do now need to get on with our lives.
We read this morning in the newspapers about dissent in the cabinet and the possibility that ministers may resign. What do you know about that? Do you anticipate ministerial resignations over these measures?
Well, I don't know. I mean, so far ministers have voted for a great many things that they don't like doing, and that's been one of the hallmarks of this period of the coronavirus. We keep doing that which we hate, but saying we'd like to be doing something else. Well, I'm afraid sooner or later, if we're going to save the soul of the Conservative Party, we've got to actually do those things which we love to do. And that means being courageous and temperate and prudent and counting the cost of lockdowns and restrictions, rather than having this endless tunnel vision just on the disease. We actually can't go on like this. Only the Conservative Party can provide good quality government that draws on the tradition of freedom and responsibility under the rule of law. And all the time we have minute and frequently changing rules governing our lives so that we can't plan forward, whether it's for business or for pleasure. I'm afraid we're going to make enormous swathes of our economy uninvestable, and there'll be just the swathes which give our lives meaning. Things like being able to go on holiday, being able to go to hospitality venues. We saw for a long time that weddings were in trouble. These things really matter in our lives. And pretty soon we're going to have to start learning why it is that we've always believed in this country that freedom under the rule of law mattered. And that's really why I'm relaunching Conservative Way Forward. We've got to show that there is a movement for that frame of mind, because if we don't, the Conservative Party will continue to drift into authoritarianism, and I simply cannot stand idly by while that happens.
You referred in a newspaper article this morning to the Conservative Party essentially, and you've repeated it here, having lost its soul. Is that what the Johnson administration is doing, burying the Conservative soul as you understand it?
Well, at the moment, we're in a pretty bad shape. Boris did promise us that he'd be, as he put it, a Brexity Hezzer, and that is what he's done. He's a highly interventionist Prime Minister. I think we did expect that. He had 2 really important jobs to do. He had to take us out of the European Union, albeit with the unfinished business of the Northern Ireland Protocol, and he had to make sure he beat Jeremy Corbyn. But I'm afraid I did expect him to spend quite a lot of money. But I think that the thing that's really changed now is we've used so much quantitative easing, that is money creation, to cover the enormous amount amount of borrowing the government has had to get us through COVID. I think now, as we go forward, we've got to be extremely careful to apply conservative principles to what we do, because the size of the state, the size of taxation, is now not consistent with conservative government. It would be, fit for a Miliband government, and much as I'm on friendly terms with Ed Miliband, I didn't want to be in his party.
Mr. Baker, what's interesting about the way you talk about this is that you're not talking about it really as a partisan or even an economic question. You seem to be posing the issue as a moral one, and that in some way, where the Conservative Party is now is in some sense immoral, in a sense almost ethical or religious. Is that your belief?
Well, if I were to put it to you as plainly as I can, surely life for each of us is a process of becoming. It's a process of becoming greater tomorrow than we were today. Not of comparing ourselves to other people, but comparing ourselves to what we were and trying to become better in some sense. Now, if life is a process of becoming, don't we deserve the dignity of choice as free human beings with something like a soul? And if you don't have any kind of spiritual belief, well, at least come up with something which gives you meaning as a freely choosing individual. I mean, where are we going to find meaning and purpose in our lives if we don't have choice and responsibility and this opportunity to grow? And so that's why I'm so very concerned that what is happening here is we're being treated by the government, by the public health establishment, as automata who can't manage to decide for themselves that it's a good idea to wear a mask in an enclosed space. I think we've all learned that now. I'm certainly capable of doing it freely, and I'm very sure that your viewers are capable of doing it too. And really, we do need to think very carefully now about what we wish to become. In society, are relationships healthy when they're voluntary, or do they all need to be coerced?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the fundamental question.
The reason I frame this or raise this as a moral question is partly, as you said, it's to do with a question of individual choice, but morality also relates to leadership. And I want to ask you about the leadership that you have supported, of your party and of the government that you've supported. Boris Johnson this week, essentially, has been in a whole series of issues about whether he has told us the whole truth about payments for decoration of flats, the issue of, once again, of Christmas parties and so on. Do you think that this leadership remains the sort of, if I could put it this way, moral leadership that you can continue to support? Or has this Prime Minister reached the end of the road for you?
Well, I'm really clear that I want Boris Johnson to be a success. I'll never forget sitting next to him at a dinner. I can see it in my mind's eye now. And he started to talk about the condition and the prosperity of the British people in a way which was earnest and honest.
Yeah, but
real.
Forgive me if I may interrupt you.
That's the Boris Johnson I want to see.
Yeah, forgive me though. Boris Johnson's idea of success may not be exactly the same as yours. And what you seem to be saying here is that success is not just a matter of winning or getting through it or getting past the next scandal. It is also about what you believe and how you behave. So let me ask you again. Is Boris Johnson still the kind of leader behaving in the kind of way, displaying the kind of morals that you feel that the Conservative Party should still support?
I think right now the Prime Minister is in very great difficulty for the reasons that you're indicating. Any member of the public is going to rightly demand that politicians not only comply with the rules that they impose on other people, but that they're seen to comply with their spirit. And it's pretty obvious now that that hasn't happened, and that is a very bad position to be in. But let me be clear, Trevor, I've been down this road once before, viewers will know, and I have absolutely no intention this time round of trying to remove a Prime Minister. I want to see Boris turn this situation around. I want to see him rescue his position. I want to see him go on to be a great success. But he's not going to do it by paying lip service to rules and being incautious about how his staff behave and comply with them. So, we didn't make him Prime Minister for his meticulous attention to detail. But, it is now a time for complete compliance with all rules.
So you're clear, he hasn't followed the rules. If he doesn't turn it around, within, let's say, a few months, is it going to be time for him to go?
Well, Trevor, as I just said a moment ago, and I hope you will understand and your viewers will understand, I've been down this road before and I'm determined not to go down it again. The reason that I'm launching Conservative, or relaunching in the new year, Conservative Way Forward, is because I think we need to create a movement which says to Boris and the whole Conservative Party, we want to live in a society characterised by freedom under the rule of law and personal responsibility. That's really what I'm about.
Steve Baker, thank you very much indeed.